Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Solid. I'm in the studio today with my co-host, Jefferson Rogers. Brandon Neal is doing what he does best, out hunting coyotes today. So he doesn't get a rock with us
Only
on the
in
Solid
Utah.
podcast.
We'll have to talk about hunting.
Yeah. But we got an incredible guest with us. Sean is in the house. Sean is an author. He's got an incredible story. Excited for you guys to hear from him. His book, I actually got it right here. It's called Beyond the Bronx. And
From prison to purpose.
Yep.
I'm interested to hear the backstory on this.
Yeah,
one.
right? Well, that's an attention grabber for sure. Everybody loves the Bronx, but
yeah,
that was the attention grabber.
I'm excited, man, because we got introduced to Sean through Justin Prince, which, as you guys know, has been on the podcast multiple times. And by the time this one comes out, you'll have seen the recent episode we just filmed with Justin again. And so when he said we needed to have Sean on, I didn't even question. We just booked it.
Flattered. And yes, you did. Thank you. I think we did it the same day he made the introduction.
Yes, same day.
That's the power of proximity. That's the power of good people. They just connect you with other good people.
And he is one of them. He's one of the best.
Nobody questions a thing. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you got to filter through all those people that are just, hey, I want to be on your show.
Yeah.
I'm always reluctant when anybody says I want to be on your show. Like, it's probably not a good fit right here.
Yeah, well, it's unique because usually we are the ones seeking out certain individuals.
Right.
So it's not always happening where, we have somebody like Justin who says, hey, man, you guys got to get this guy on.
Pretty cool.
So it's good to have you here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And all the way from Long Island.
Yes, sir.
So you couldn't get further away from St. George.
I didn't even know it existed until I met Justin.
No kidding.
And then, ironically enough, I met another gentleman, Cody Hofine, who does wholesaling out here, has some mastermind stuff. And Cody's part of a coaching program that I'm also part of with Bedros Koulian out in California.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So we met at dinner. It's like, oh, St. George, what are the chances?
Yeah.
So I just stopped and saw him yesterday, too, spent some time with him and the family as well.
It's awesome. Yeah, a lot of good dudes from St. George.
I would say so, man. You guys got it figured out.
Yeah. Well,
Family, God, family, and finances.
Yep.
Those three things are okay. And then, fitness will squeeze in there too. But those first three are far more important.
That's awesome. It couldn't be more fitting because that's always a subject we talk about is faith, family, fitness, finance, right? Those are the four things that we consistently talk about on the podcast. So
yeah, I got the 4 M's, my own spin on it, right?
Let's hear it.
Money, mindset, movement, and mastery.
All right.
Just to go in line with a lot of where I came from, there really isn't a money mindset, or it's very misaligned with how success really comes about. So just finding success through my other business, which is medical supplies, which I've done very well with, I didn't have the other boxes checked off.
Yeah.
So then I went in search of the answers. I'm like, well, how can I have all these millions of dollars and still be fucking miserable?
Yeah.
And it's because I hadn't done the work.
Yeah.
And so much of it ties into the book, and so much of it ties into just these last 3.5 years of being on this mission, which is where I finally stepped into my purpose. So it's crazy how you can find something early in your life, but still not be ready to receive the responsibility that comes along with it.
Yeah.
So back when I was 20 years old, I was at Bronx Community College. I was a student that excelled there in the social programs, and I was on all the boards and the student bodies and this, that, and the third. And I got to speak to about 2,000 students at an orientation. Never had spoken to a group that large before. And when I tell you I nailed it, I knew then. I was like, holy cow, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And just had to go through life before I could actually realize the man that could carry the responsibility of that natural talent and then build it into what's becoming now. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool journey. I can't say it's been an easy one, but it's definitely been worth it. And we're still putting in the reps. We're still making the mistakes. We're still struggling, at times to make sense of it all. But when you have that faith, everything seems to line up. I always say when you're in your purpose, God rolls out the red carpet for you. He presents the right people to you, and everything seems to facilitate when you put others first and you're being of service to the world and to your fellow man and woman. Everything else kind of figures itself out.
Agreed. Doesn't mean it's easier, though.
No, it isn't.
I think a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, well, if I find my purpose, then it's going to be easier.
No, it's never easier. I think your ability to deal with what comes along with it just gets better, right? So we all had $10 problems at some point. You know, there were ATM machines. And in poor neighborhoods in New York City, there's ATM machines that dispense $10 bills. The bank only dispenses 20 and better. But when you're broke, and you're broke, there's a bodega, a grocery store with a machine that dispenses $10 bills, and you might only be able to pay $10 or take $10 out and pay the $2, $3 fee, whatever it is. So I always say now, I can make $1 million decision easier than I used to make $100 decisions back then. So no, it doesn't get easier. You're right. It just gets easier for the person you've become to deal with that. And if you have good people that have been in your life, right? Let's say, how long have you guys known each other?
26 years.
Yeah, a long time.
So you've seen it. It's not that your lives got any easier. You may be like, oh, that was an amazing year. And then you're like, dude, do you know how much stuff we overcame last year? But you don't see it that way.
Right.
You see it as a challenge. You see it as part of the process. And you start to embrace the hard stuff because you know there's growth on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
And obviously, if you've got strong shoulders, God puts more responsibility on them so that you can be of service to more people.
Yep.
And that's what I love about the culture you guys come from out here. And I was so unfamiliar with it until I got to Zenith, ironically enough, and started meeting all these Mormons. So my first thing is like, hey, I'm Dominican. I'm from the Bronx in the city, but I love what you guys are talking about. You guys accepting converts or what? Because the reality is I just got to meet people that put their families first, and they made a ton of money, and they enjoyed doing it, and they changed lives. So I always say, when you teach people how to fish, that's the best kind of way to make a living.
Absolutely.
And that's the one that I'm on now. So
that's awesome, man. So tell us your story. How did you end up here? I mean, obviously, you started in the Bronx, and you had this long journey to get to a place where you found your purpose in life.
Sure.
And achieved some success. Let's hear your story.
The beginnings are nothing remarkable, man. I'm a kid from a housing project in the Bronx. I was born and raised during the 80s and 90s.
Real quick.
Sure.
A lot of people listening to this, maybe they never really spent. They may have visited New York, but they don't know what a project is.
So let's dive into it, man. It's like a social explanation. So New York City's got 5 boroughs. We've got Manhattan, which everybody considers New York City, Times Square, all that good stuff, Madison Square Garden, Grand Central Station, all the tourist sites. Then you've got the Statue of Liberty. And then there's this borough called Staten Island, which is the one and only kind of outlier borough, right? It's the smallest borough by population. And then you've got Queens and Brooklyn, which are very populated and very immigrant heavy. And then you've got the poorest borough, which everybody knows, the Bronx, for either the Yankees, the Bronx Zoo, or extreme poverty and crime. And I come from a housing project, which is basically a government housing project, ironically enough. It's a project that never seemed to have worked out very well. So when I moved in,
like concrete apartments. I mean, they're basically
it's literally
10
cookie cutter buildings that can go from 5 stories to 25 stories. Mine was, I would consider, a small project. We had some bigger projects where you see what would be a downtown skyscraper in a small town. That was just a building full of poor people. They all look the same, usually brownish red bricks. Piss-stenched hallways, graffiti. During my days, a lot of crack vials on the floor. But I was lucky enough to have a hardworking, loving single mother who immigrated here from the Dominican Republic at the age of 11. Her parents came over as a result of a coup over there where they killed the dictator who was in charge, a guy by the name of Rafael Trujillo, back in the 60s. So we've been in America for quite a long time. And they came over with that immigrant mentality. They went from being middle class over there to working in factories and being a seamstress. So they took a big step back, and they did it for survival. And I think that gets lost in the American story. I once had a guy, I just want to segue because I once had a colleague of mine who's from another country, and he's done very well for himself. And he goes, we're at dinner one night, and he goes, these people come over here, and it's not like they're coming here to make this place better. And this was right after he told me his story of how he got here and had to cross a river and flee persecution because they were going to kill his old man who was part of the army who had just lost power. And I was just like, wow, America's a country full of immigrants that within a generation or two forgets that they were immigrants and starts spitting down at the other immigrants.
Wow.
So I only say that because I think we're in a time where people are here or there, and we've lost our compassion for the struggle. Maybe we've done well for ourselves. Yes, there's obvious problems, there's political divides and all that, but without getting or muddying the waters, we're all human beings, and we all want to do better for ourselves and our families. So my family came here as a result of that. My mother was the first one in her generation to graduate college. She went to City 2-year college, ironically the same one I graduated from a generation later. So my story didn't develop till later.
At the Bronx Community College.
Bronx Community College, brother. And my mother graduated there too, and my wife. So, I mean, this story doesn't start to get good until I go to prison, ironically enough.
Yeah.
So I'm going through the motions. Now, I had a lot of love.
But one thing I bet your mom did teach you, though, was some good work ethic, because she had to work for it.
She had to get up and work every day, and we were surrounded by generational welfare recipients. So you do have a dichotomy and a duality there of people that have enough but not enough to get out. That was us.
And one thing
then
I
people that
noticed,
are taking care, they're gaming the system because they don't know any better. So
yeah, and whether it's not they know any better, because being in business as long as I've been in, and I grew up in a poor neighborhood too, and you have this group of people that know that they're living on assistance and refuse to go to that next level in fear of losing that assistance, because now they're actually responsible for their future.
So you want to hear something crazy? And this is where I say humanity, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us.
Did you get the chicken skin?
Oh, I'll get them a few more times, brother. I'm all heart. That's my logo.
That's interesting, because I got it before you even pointed at your arm. Not even sure where it came from, but I got it.
There you go.
That's what good energy does, brother. So my mother always worked for a living. She was a social worker for the city of New York. Never made more than $50,000 a year, and this was later in her career. So she's probably making 20s into the 30s, then maybe 40,000s. Never got past $50,000 a year. So that's why we could never get out of the projects.
And $50,000 in St. George, Utah, that many years ago was friggin' badass income. But in New York,
different
so
story,
much.
even in the housing projects. She had my little brother at 13. Well, I was 13. And then she had my little sister when I was 16. So I got to see why people don't make it out. And to your point, it's not about gaming the system always. It's not worth it. So my mother, being a social worker for the city of New York and for the welfare system, decided that when she had her kids, she was going to go on welfare for a year. She knew she just had to apply. She would pause her job. They'd give her a leave. They give you 6 weeks in America, right? Most corporations, you give 6 weeks, and then it's like back to work. In other countries, European countries, they'll give you sometimes a year or maybe more, because that connection to your child is an introduction to the world. And it will follow suit into how they become either good or unsatisfied humans in some regard.
Right.
So she took a year off both of those times. And I can tell you that we lived more comfortably on welfare than we did when she was getting up and working every day, because of the expenses that are involved, the caretaking that you have to then get to. So again, if you're not making enough money in a place like New York, sometimes it is easier to be on welfare.
Well,
and
I
then
think
it becomes the culture.
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's a challenge because everybody assumes that these theological solutions just make sense and that's how you should implement it, and they don't realize the culture that impacts all of it, and it matters so much, right?
I had a conversation with a gentleman yesterday who's obviously out here. He's Mormon, and he's been together with his wife for 20 years, and he's only 42. And I'm like, geez, you guys. And he just said it's a culture. Like if you're 23, 24, and you don't have a ring on your finger out here, everybody's like, well, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Because family is the one thing that I've put my finger on in communities of color, and I would imagine also in poverty, whether it's your kind of poverty here or a trailer park, if I'm stereotyping. It's just a culture.
Yeah.
And it's also like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to just get by and work at McDonald's. I'm still going to be struggling, so fuck it. I'll take advantage of the system, and but then you get caught up in it.
Yep.
And then it becomes another generation. And the one thing that people of color, I realize, and people of poverty don't have is a good family culture.
Yeah, I would say I don't think it has.
Extremely unhealthy.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with color. I think it has to do without the family unit.
That's why I added that. But I think here's where the conversation gets lost, and racism and all this stuff. I had a conversation with a guy. He runs a nonprofit in East Harlem or in New York somewhere. And, I had the discussion, and I said, listen, they hate Donald Trump. I mean, he can do no right. He can do, he's evil, he's the devil. like Joe Biden was any better, right? They're all the same. My point being, I just said, listen, brother, people that have had some level of comfort for a couple of generations because their great-grandparents worked their ass off and then their kids worked their ass off and then they kind of rested on their laurels, they feel like something's being taken from them. Whereas if you've never had a piece of the American dream and you have the right culture, it's alive and well. There's never been a better time to make money if you have a good work ethic. But who's going to sit here and be the messenger for that?
Well, I think it's important what you're saying right now because I've said, which by the way, I've been married for 20 years now.
And you're probably
I'm
40.
I'm 40.
I'm a mind reader.
Actually 19, but pretty close.
We're rounding up.
Been together with my wife for 21. But I think when it comes to making a decision, I'm trying to think. I lost my train of thought. Thinking what was the point you were making right there? You said your boy from Harlem that runs a.
Yeah, I was telling him that and he had never he heard it put that way. Like, brother, they feel like something's being taken.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That coming up, I started in business. I was 19 years old, so it was a long time ago. Now it's 21 years. And there have been a lot of different types of presidents, Republicans and Democrats, and it didn't matter what president there was. It didn't matter what politician was representing the community. It didn't change the way I acted. And because I acted similarly in chasing my goals, the goals become a reality regardless of who was president or not. Yeah. And I think too often people get caught up in thinking that they're not in control anymore. When you are in control, as long as that is what you're pouring your attention into.
It gives them a story to hang on to.
Yeah.
To justify the fact that they're not internalizing that lack of success. Meaning, yeah, things are turbulent. You've got a president that if you look at him a certain way, he's the worst thing that ever happened to this country. And then there's a whole dynamic that's like, hey, this is the best thing that's happened in 3 generations.
Yeah.
None of it's relevant. I'm going to keep doing my thing. I don't give a shit who's in office, and you're the same. So we all have our opinions regarding politics and day-to-day things that we hear in the news. But we're not screaming it from the rafters. We're not spending 3 hours a day scrolling and sending memes and videos to our friends of how the man and the deep state is holding us back. That's where people get caught up. It's literally, you can use any story or any narrative to strengthen the belief that you have that you're either in control or not in control. So I always say your social media feed is a big indicator of who you are.
But you just said something a second ago about who's going to be the person that shares that message.
Right.
And it sounds like we all are doing our best at doing that because that's our value system. Those are the things that are important to us. And we could very well be doing all this social media stuff that a lot of people are doing.
I see
it's just the entertaining, and they're showing off the cars and the watches. But we do this podcast, and I put my content out because I'm trying to be that.
Right.
I'm trying to be the person that's got some great content that's leading people in the direction of not being a victim.
Right.
You take responsibility.
And the
it's
algorithm will reward you. It's not going to be sexy for our group or our dynamic, right? So self-development, personal development, positivity, that's probably on the lowest single-digit spectrum of percentage of why people go on the internet. But we do it anyway. And the people that are interested in that, the algorithm will find you. So, again, there's never been a better time. Whatever that thing you want to do is in the world, young people, just start doing it. The algorithm will find it. But it's not going to happen overnight. My video views suck sometimes. You got this whole culture of views and likes. And listen, there's so many fake engagements and all that craziness because people want to appear more popular. The truth is this isn't a popular space to be in. But there's a reason you're the 1%. It's because you're not like everybody else. You want to be like everybody else, you're going to get what everybody else gets. You're going to do what everybody else does, and that doesn't move the needle.
I've always said followers are like monopoly money, It's like just because you got a lot of followers doesn't mean wealthy.
Yeah, talk to me about quality of followers, right? Let's talk about the net worth of your followers or the social IQ or the heart-centricness of your following versus people that just want to be entertained. And, hey, I got animal pages where, the animals are going at it, and I got funny pages, and I go through all the nonsense group texts with my buddies, but it's not what drives me. It's not what drives my message.
Yeah,
some people just here to be entertained and pass the time, and I'll just say this one thing in regards to the attention span. It was a wake-up call for me. I was in the elevator on my way to an attorney's office. It's only a 4th-floor flight up. Maybe we stopped once or twice. Yeah. This girl must have went through 100 different, I was behind her, and I'm tall, so I'm just looking over, and I mean, what the hell are you taking in? It's true what they say. You got to catch that attention quickly.
Yeah.
But that's not our audience. And, God help them. I hope they wake up one day. But the majority of people are asleep.
Yeah, they won't. It's the new drug, so
Yeah.
they can get dopamine without using a drug, and that's a cell phone. Yep. You said something that was powerful. I'd love to go back to this. You said my story didn't get good until I went to prison.
Yeah.
I think most people would say they went to prison, their story got bad.
I was college educated, man. I did Bronx Community. I did Ithaca College, which is a good private school in upstate New York, across the hill from Cornell University, which most people would know. It's the other college in that town. But I just was going through the motions. I came home. I was a party promoter up there, radio DJ. So I was already experimenting with my social butterfly status and being able to talk to people, get on stage.
Running with some different circles
but
back
yeah,
then.
there was all alcohol and drugs and all kinds of craziness involved too. So you get these inclinations, but the environment you're in and the dopamine hits back then before phones was those things. Women, drugs, alcohol, partying, all that stuff, for me at least. And it was just really diluting the message which had already been planted in my gut that I'm supposed to be doing something greater. I never had any male role models, and, I was doing okay. I was just going to a job. I was making, 30, 40 grand a year. Eventually I got up to like 60 grand a year in my mid-20s doing marketing. But then it got interesting because I started hustling. Now, this is where that environment I grew up in during the crack era where everybody was a drug dealer kind of seeped in. Now, I'm not, criminal, hardcore, but we would dabble in it. It was like, all right, I'm making 50, 60 grand a year at this marketing job, but I've got plenty of freedom because if you can make people money, you don't have to do a 9 to 5. You go out on the street, you perform, you make the money, they leave you alone. I was like, this is my thing. And then I found knockoff clothing, ironically enough. So I don't know if that ever reached Utah, but like True Religion jeans, Ed Hardy, all that stuff, you couldn't afford it. They had like 28th Street, the Asians and the Nigerians the immigrants would come in and they'd have these knockoff goods. And you'd buy them for a fraction of the cost, and I'd go up and resell them.
No kidding.
And that's how my side hustle started, on top of always working, though. So I always made money legally, but it wasn't enough to get by. New York is expensive in your 20s when you want to party. I mean, even the 50 grand we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So then it starts to get a little hairy because now I'm starting to dabble in drugs or connecting people with, I don't do this, but I know a guy who does, and, I'll make some money. So I'm working and I'm hustling. The lines are blurred, wildly blurred. And after I go to prison, which ironically has nothing to do with that. I was just in the wrong place, the wrong time, because I'm around the wrong people.
Yeah.
And I end up being the mark of a robbery. And it didn't work out that way. And we got the upper hand, but nobody calls the cops where we're from. We took the law into our own hands. And, I go into detail in the book about the whole thing. But I don't want to waste too much time on it because there was no value in that. The value was in me early on saying, I'm going to prison. This is the best thing. This is going to be the best thing that ever happened for me.
And were you really in that headspace when it was happening?
It was a bold-faced lie at the time, brother, but it was something I had to tell myself to make sense of it. But it truly was, and I'll tell you why. A little more than a year before I went in, I met my now wife. We've been together 17 years and married for 12.
Incredible.
And our first date was on 11/11, November 11th.
Awesome.
I didn't know it at the time for what it was. But in my darkest time, which is I'm in prison, I've got something to come home to. I've got somebody to call every day. I've also got people that support me. So in prison and state in New York, you can only have $55 every 2 weeks to go to the commissary and buy stuff. So I always had $55. I always had stamps, which was currency. You can only live a certain lifestyle in prison, but I was capable of doing that because I didn't come from the dumps. I had some level of support. I had some level of people waiting for me and rooting for me and knowing that I wasn't a bad person, but I was making bad decisions and going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
But the blessing there was not only do I have this incredible woman waiting for me, and I have, food in my belly and, all the bare necessities you can have in prison to make things as comfortable as possible, I have clarity for the first time. There's no drugs, there's no alcohol, there's no bills to be paid, there's no distractions, there's no bad influences. And I start to pick up self-development books, the first of which being Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within.
No kidding.
And that
That's
changes
incredible.
everything for me. I learn about NLP. I start practicing in the prison cell that moment when I'm on that stage in front of 2,000 people, and I could bring myself back there by closing my eyes and snapping my fist. And then I started to learn that I was telling myself a story. So I start to rewrite the story in black and white composition notebooks. And damn it, I left it in the place I'm staying. I should have brought it. I started to devise and design what I wanted my life to be like. So not only am I writing, well, what am I going to accomplish a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, to the tune of what am I going to do 10 years later? I'm going to buy my mother a house. I'm going to have commercial real estate holdings that, that equal 8 figures. And this is the most powerful one because that seems like such a wildly crazy thing to write in a prison cell. I'm going to be a commercial real estate investor with an 8-figure portfolio. Tony Robbins, remember those 2 things. I joined Tony Robbins Platinum years later. This is about 2023. And we're going to Sun Valley, Idaho for one of his events. And we get laid over in Chicago due to a snowstorm. And I meet my now commercial real estate partner, and we have an 8-figure portfolio.
Awesome. No kidding.
Never took a damn course, never did anything. I don't even own my house because I own it with the bank, right? But here comes this guy into my life, and we're the best of friends now. And that is the power of manifestation and going on the right path. I wrote in that book that the secret to living a great life is family and helping as many people as I can. And even though I still didn't realize the man, because once you come out, there's the distractions again.
Yep.
But I did start to build that successful medical supply business. And then that gave me the freedom 3 years ago when I got sober to start to take the time that I bought back and start to work on myself.
So what year did you get out?
So I got out in 2011. I did 20 months, 2009 to 2011. I ended up going back for 5 months on a parole violation because once you're in that system, they can lock your ass up for anything. Yeah.
So how long, when did you start the medical sales company?
2016.
Okay.
Which still goes on today, and it does very well, and it funds all of my passion projects because, you know, this isn't necessarily the most lucrative space to start. Yeah. You have to transition. So that's why I'm transitioning into transformational speaking, author, coaching programs through my money mindset movement to help others like me and be the light for entrepreneurs who can't crack the ceiling, because it's not about numbers in Excel spreadsheets. It's about proximity, and it's about looking in here and connecting those 2 things, your mind and your heart, and that's where mastery comes in. Great. And I only learned that the hard way. So again, it's been a jumbled mess of a life.
Was it the hard way,
leading up to where I am
Was it
now.
the hard way, or was it the only way?
I only learn things the hard way, so it is the only way.
I don't know if it's hard. I mean, it's just the way you learn.
Not now.
Right?
Not now. It's not hard. It's just unfamiliar, right? So everybody says imposter syndrome, but what it really is unfamiliarity. If you walk into somewhere like the Zenith Room, we spend a pretty penny to be there. And I was blessed enough also through my real estate partner, who's good friends with Dean Graciosi, Tony's partner. So, they loved my energy. They loved the mission that I'm on, which is ultimately to impact the lives of 10 million inner city youth. And they were like, all right, we need that kind of thing here. Yeah. And I've been part of that group since day one. And it's a business group, but really what it's become is a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a network of people like Justin, who's new to the group, but instantly says, hey, you got to have this guy on. So, walking in that room, I always joked, I'm going to be the dumbest, brokest guy here. And I always joke, thankfully I wasn't, either of the 2. But you just don't know. So I'm in that group to see what's possible.
So you went 5 years getting out to starting your business. What was happening in those 5 years? Because obviously you had a desire to go do something on your own. Did you go back and get a job? I mean, what happened in those 5 years?
I was working as a marketing rep for a crazy guy out in Brooklyn, New York, and they ended up screwing me over. But it was everything that needed to happen because that was finally when I had the courage to go out and do my own thing. So it was actually a competing business that did the same thing. So I would market for this person and bring their accounts in and make them look good because, I'm well-spoken. I have a college degree, but I also have a certain level of street awareness and just down-to-earthness that resonates with a wide group of people. Absolutely. And then you have this notch on your belt that you've been to prison. Now, people don't know that about me, mind you, because I don't share that in a professional space. It took me 15 years to have the courage to do that. But I use my savvy to help build others' businesses. And then, I just realized, and I had the business plan written for years, but I just couldn't pull the trigger.
So what caused you to finally pull that trigger 5 years?
I got screwed out of some money, and I said, fuck it. I'm going to take the money that was finally owed to me when they gave me a chunk of it, and I put it into buying my own equipment. and I started building the plane in the air. I didn't know anything about the equipment. I just knew how to market the goddamn doctors, and I would put people together, and they would make money together, and they would write prescriptions. And I just said, screw it. I'm going to take this money. It was meant to buy a home. And it didn't work out, but I won't get into the whole story. And I just said, all right, I'm going to take this 30 grand, start buying equipment. Didn't know how to set it up. Didn't know how to bill it. I'm doing deliveries. It just from the ground up, we built it. I still remember, it was an awesome story. We used to get FedEx envelopes. We had a P.O. box to avoid some New York City taxes. So we lived in Jersey. We set up a mailbox way out in Long Island, closer to where we live now, ironically enough. And the idea was we're going to be able to not pay New York City tax, which you don't have to if you're set up in a county outside. We get our FedEx package. It was like a week's worth of mail. And I remember opening up, and it was like a little more than $10,000 of checks. And I remember just crying and hugging my wife or girlfriend at the time, fiance, and just being like, holy shit, this is going to work. $10,000. Now I might $10,000, in a day. It's not a thing anymore. But back then, that was the aha moment. That's what faith is. It's the courage to do something despite not having any guarantees.
Yeah.
So got screwed over, took this money, invested in myself, took a chance on myself. It wasn't easy. And then finally, I get the reward. Okay, this is going to work. But it was still touch and go because you're waiting for the floor to drop from under you. If one bad delivery or one mistake or one phone call, I'm like, he's going to drop us. We're going to lose the account. You're just operating from a place of scarcity. And there's nobody around you that has dreams like you. Right. So who the hell are you going to lean on? It was basically me and my wife. And it was me that created the belief, and she's supporting me because she loves me, but she doesn't necessarily, have that belief in what we're trying to do. But she, this is what we're doing. She helped me build the business. We spent a lot of long nights and days, building business, doing billing. And this is when our daughter's born back in 2017. And then, she kind of transitions to take care of the baby. And then we start to build the business up and we get employees. And then we do very well. And we've done very well with it since. But there's industry changes and shifts, and also just the lack of fulfillment. When you're just doing business to make money, and anybody who doesn't have money is going to be like, screw that. Go make that money, right? Because you got to learn that lesson that we all know, which money isn't going to buy you happiness, but it will buy you freedom.
I always say, everybody says, enjoy the journey, not the destination. So the only person that ever said that is someone that arrived at the destination. Because everybody going through the journey sucks.
Amen. So I never forget what it felt like to be broke, to feel hopeless, and to have all that doubt.
Yeah.
And despite having a very comfortable life, I decided I'm going to get really uncomfortable again and do something wild. Like, there were dramatic industry changes, and they were basically trying to put people like me out of business because insurance companies hold all the cards.
Yeah.
And the reality was, I was like, shit, the writing's on the wall. Like, I may be able to do well, but I'll never be able to do as well as I was doing because that's just the nature of insurance. It goes down. Nothing goes up. Everything goes down for the providers or for the doctors or whatever. So I said, oh, man, I got to shift. But I had this seed planted. I'm like, I would have guys in my industry, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, thinking I'm going to be a motivational speaker. And they would look at me like I had 3 heads, man. They were like, okay, sure, dude, whatever. Like, you're cool and, you're well-spoken, but they don't know anybody who does that. Yeah. And that takes another wild dream. But again, this was planted in me, right? So the great Denzel Washington has that saying. He's like, that itch, that burning desire that just keeps nagging at you and won't go away. That's God's proof in advance that it's already yours. Yeah. Now you got to put in the work. Yep. So we've been putting in the work for the last 3.5 years since I decided to get sober. I have the clarity around that. Everything now is about faith, family, and then, I'm going to put fitness up there and then finances. Yep. Because I already, like you said, I had already arrived in terms of that poor kid from the projects. I've already made millions of dollars. So that's not driving me anymore. Right. I know how to make money. It still doesn't drive me to this day because I know how to make money and I already have an abundance mindset. And it's not like everything's smooth, but it's like we said, we just got broader shoulders to hold that weight up.
Yeah, no doubt. It's awesome.
Yeah, you do things for a little bit different reason early on.
Yeah, for sure.
And even though you had developed some skills in that industry, You were really, I was in a similar place 8 years ago. You know, just in between things and, you know, what do? I'm kind of familiar with this, and it's really for the purpose of going back to making money.
Yep.
And then I'm sure you found through years of being in business, similar to what most people do, is man, if I'm going to stay here, I want to find some purpose in this.
Yeah.
And find the things that you love that give you energy that keep you coming back for more.
Well, and I think in society today, there's this thing that tells people that it's wrong to go make a lot of money if you're in need of it. When the need goes away, then your attention is going to change, which is normal. That's what's supposed to happen. But there's nothing wrong with when you're struggling and with your poor. You were college educated at this point, so you know my guess is you might have been struggling, but you weren't still poor.
Right. I mean, I had enough. I was making 6 figures a year before I went to prison, but it was a combination of legal and illegal. And then when I came home, I was still making over 6 figures. I think one year it was like a banner year for me. I made like 162 grand, and then it became 360 grand, and then we got to 7 figures, and then we got to multiple 7 figures. I've never even shared this before because I'm very reluctant to share numbers with some of my audience. But the truth is, it's a process, and it will continue. It's like a ladder. You know, anybody that takes off too quick, you're probably bound to fall back down.
Yeah, it's like putting a new driver in an F1 car. Probably not the best place to start.
You got to start with that '89 Toyota Camry that I had. My first car was $800.
Dude, I had a '94 Toyota Camry. So
you can't kill those things, man. They're probably still running around the road somewhere in some foreign country.
Sure.
And listen, I just learned even recently that there's part of me still that associates with that kid that doesn't feel worthy of having that money. So over the years of making all these millions of dollars, I found creative ways to just blow it too, or be irresponsible with it, or piss it away by not managing it properly. And this was just brought to my attention recently on a podcast with my colleague from Zenith, Chad Willardson, who's a money manager. And that was the aha moment, because now we're playing with big money. And if I don't get that shit correct, those problems can get very big and very quickly and cripple your business. So you have to pay attention, and you have to change that mindset around money. And I think people where I come from, and poor people in general, they have a poverty mindset.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times people think that, oh man, when I get a ton of money, I can make decisions easier to make mistakes, but not necessarily, because you make a mistake, it could wipe you out totally.
Correct.
And going from having multi-millions of dollars to being wiped out totally hurts a lot worse than being broke and making, bet on yourself and still ended up broke. You're still back at the same spot.
The interesting thing, though, is I would love to read one of Tony Robbins' books or Dean Graziosi. I was just reading one by Tom Wheelwright that's just like world-renowned CPA. And I wish I could just take all the knowledge, all the mistakes that those guys have learned, and just apply them to my own financial foundation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, because I'm still just as frustrated. I feel like I'm just as uneducated. I'm trying to overcome some of those same things that I was raised with for my finances and for taxes and how to be responsible.
Have you read Tony Robbins' Money? Have you read Money or Unshakable?
No, I haven't
Did
read.
you guys read those?
You talking about the Holy Grail of Investing, the newest one?
No.
Okay, the money book he has. I haven't read either one.
One's called Money.
Money Master of the Game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other one is called Unshakable, and that's a smaller version of Money.
Oh, so that Unshakable's a truncated version.
That's
why I'll dive in. So the money, the money book is huge.
It's
just
huge.
like the Life Force book.
Yes.
It's like, holy shit! You get the Audible, and it's like 20 hours long. I'm like,
I would
could we get
suggest
the
you
Cliff
read it.
Notes?
If you're going down that subject right now and you just had this conversation with the money manager,
I am, and
that's a
I
good
got to
place
tell
to
you,
go.
that is the beauty of a group like that. Everybody wants to see you win, and once they take a liking to you, the last thing they want to see you do is fall on your face.
Yeah.
And I literally, I mean, maybe I shouldn't share it. It's something personal, but I don't think he'll mind. We had about a half an hour conversation, and then he called me back with that wisdom that I just shared with you, which is that, hey, there's still part of you that doesn't feel worthy to have that amount of wealth. The next time you get a big win, just sit on it.
Yeah.
And I just got a big win.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on it.
It's awesome.
But I got 4 other ways I can spend the shit, but I'm like, no, I'm going to listen to that advice. And he also made himself available to me should I need any advice. Now, this is a guy that only deals with big money individuals, but I have that connection. And that's the power of proximity.
Yep.
But more importantly, that's the power of taking a chance on yourself. That's the power of writing a big check that other people would say is ridiculous. Even when necessarily, like, I don't know, if you're cutting a $250,000 check, what should your yearly income be? I don't know. I'm not going to share what mine is. But the point is, it's probably not a fiscally responsible thing. But a person who's willing to take a chance on themselves is saying, you know what, 250, I believe in myself, and now I see what I'm capable of if I build my life around God, family, and impacting others. Sky's the limit. The return on investment is the funniest, because everybody from a practical sense would ask me, what's the ROI on Tony Robbins Platinum, which costs $85,000 a year? And I always say, well, I was about to get a divorce going in, so priceless would be my answer.
Awesome.
But they want a physical answer. Well, how much money did
There's
you make
just
as a
no way to
result? And there's no
quantify it.
way to quantify that. And almost everybody I know, I've never heard anybody, shout out to Tony Robbins and the Platinum Partnership, which is amazing, never heard anybody complain. You got people there that are worth 20, 30, 40, $100 million, and you got people there that are literally putting it on a credit card. Nobody has ever said I regretted doing it.
Right.
Not a one
Not if you're
single
there for the right
person,
reasons,
dude.
trying to extract value out
I've
of it.
never heard anybody
Yeah.
say that, because once you get around that level of energy, here we go again, and I'll tell you the funny story. When I signed up for that was my first ever mastermind. It was a 6-figure mastermind, because I'm just like, take that shot. Let's go. I walked up to the desk and I go, hey, how much, or they got to the price. I didn't ask how much. It's like $85,000 a year. I was like, oh, that was more than I was expecting. And I went to the bathroom, and it was like the fourth day of me avoiding all the sales pitches. I would walk out and eat that terrible convention food that they have in the hallways there in Palm Beach. And, my stomach was worse off for it. So here I am in the bathroom, and I guess that's where I do my best thinking. Because I'm like, dude, why are you trying to talk yourself out of this? This is exactly what you dreamt of. You wrote that you were going to be at a Tony Robbins seminar, walk on hot coals in a damn prison cell. This guy changed your life. That book changed your life. And I got to tell him, I got to correct that. He didn't change my life. I changed my life. He just gives me and everybody else that follows him, or any other leader, like Justin has his community, or John Maxwell, they're giving you tools that they learned, the mistakes that they made, in the hopes that you can avoid it. And you buy into the message. It's
You
no
start to
different.
believe that it's possible for you.
It's no different than Christ on a much more minuscule scale. Obviously, Christ being the ultimate mentor, right? If I can do him the disservice of calling him a mentor. But he was a human being. Whether or not you choose to believe he was the Son of God, I'm not going to try to get heavy. I personally believe he was a human being who had the blueprint for the rest of us. He was placed here by some magical power that gave the blueprint that now has impacted billions upon billions upon billions of lives.
Yep.
That is so amazing.
It is.
And these guys are the same on a smaller scale. So, I would have people say, oh, you got to buy motivation. No, I'm already motivated. I'm buying the blueprint.
Wisdom.
And I'm buying access to the people that enhance the energy that allows me to fulfill that blueprint.
I think what you just said is powerful, because somebody who thinks that they're going to invest in something like that and that's going to motivate them, those are the people that don't take advantage of it. It's the people that are already motivated to show up, and they're purchasing the opportunity to gain the wisdom
Correct.
and the relationships.
And you could never talk those people into buying it anyways.
No. They just don't get
It's
it.
like beating a dead horse.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. That they may never. And
I hope they do, but
I hope they do
they're
too.
fighting themselves.
Because I at one point was the guy that would have talked down on it. Like, what's the ROI?
Me too. I think most of us
But you get to a point, hopefully, that there's a seed planted. And just like there was in all of us, there was a seed planted somewhere along the way, and we were going to be a little bit more open next time.
Yeah.
And we know that it can't work every time. We'd love it for that 2,000 people you're sitting in front of, for that message to sink in with 100%.
Right.
Man, how awesome would that
You
be?
would be the best ever, because, but I go in there with the humility to say, let me just impact one person. Because if you can truly change one person, as cheesy and as cliche as this sounds, if I could change one person, that then in turn changes the trajectory of their family lineage, that's worth 100
How incredible
people
is that?
that weren't affected that day. And that is the power that somehow was placed in me. And I would be doing myself, the world, and obviously my family a disservice if I wasn't chasing down the version of myself that is so far off that it scares the hell out of me even today. Like, I really do have a fear of how great I can be. So I have to surround myself with people that demand more of themselves. And in turn, when I have to go see these ladies and gentlemen at my Zenith family, I've got good news for them.
Yeah.
We are making progress. It is sinking in. We are doing the work. We're taking the steps. I told Tony in this most recent Idaho trip, we did one in Coeur d'Alene in July, I believe, or August. And the theme was set a seemingly impossible goal with a ridiculous deadline. And he shared one of his personal stories that I won't share out of respect. And it was just like, listen, the obstacles, the bigger the target, the more obstacles will be placed in the way. And you just, okay, we can't do it this way. We find a solution. We find a solution. We find a solution. So I was going to write, all right, I want to get in front of 10,000 people by the end of 2026. And then I'm like, that's so paltry. All right, 100,000 people. I 10X the goal. And then a couple of guys shared when Tony was done with his story. He's like, all right, anybody got anything? And a couple of guys shared. And then I'm not going to share because there's still a part of me that's scared to share this with Tony Robbins. And he goes, Sean, what you got? And I'm like, oh, God. He called on me. And I shared with him, I'm going to impact the lives of, I'm going to get in front of 100,000 people by the end of 2026. And he goes, that's awesome. And then we had a dialogue. Like, I'm sitting here talking to Tony Robbins one-on-one. And he knows my story about, going to prison. I got to share that with him in Maui, which was a wild story. I love sharing this story. If you do me the honor of just hearing this. At the end of my platinum year, we're in Maui. It's a relationship seminar, love and passion. This is the only one you can bring your spouse to. I'm ready to drop 50 grand, first class flights. My wife, my young daughter, my less than 1-year-old son. We'll bring the nanny. We'll get the second room at the Waldorf for 8 days. I don't care. I'll spend the 50 grand because I want this to work so badly. She's like, dude, I'm not going. Disappointed as disappointed can be, right? It wasn't meant for her to go because everything I learned there was what took me to the next level. And if she was there with the kids, maybe I wouldn't have got that message. But what was cool on the very last day, he never does this. He's standing around shaking hands, kissing babies, taking pictures. Never have I seen him do this before. And most people say he doesn't really do this. So I'm waiting my turn patiently, and like one person in front of me, and I'm feeling this hum over my body. Like a hum, a literal hum, can't explain it. And I get up to him, like, hey, how you doing, Tony, in my big New York voice. And he's like, I'd ask you with his big Tony Robbins voice, but I can feel you. And I go, oh, man, you don't know what that means. Guys, I have that whole thing on video, 3 angles, all the audio. Like, if I told the story, you wouldn't believe it. So at that point, he goes, I can feel you. I was like, oh, man, I just put my hand on him like we're brothers talking. I then shrink in front of him. It wasn't an imposter syndrome. It was literally a validation of everything I believed myself to be capable of from the guy I read 15 years ago. And I told him the whole story of how he changed my life in a prison cell. And I read the book. And I didn't rejoin Platinum. And then the Zenith opportunity comes up. And now I get to bounce things off of him. We don't exchange info, but I mean, we get to bounce things directly off Tony Robbins in a setting with about 20 or 30 people. And again, I keep mentioning Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is a human being who's dedicated his life to teaching other people how to fish. Yeah. He's not God. He's not Jesus Christ, and never would claim to be. But he was the guy for me. Yeah. And everybody, there's someone out there that resonates with you. And I'm going to be that guy for some people. You've been that guy. You've been that guy. And we've all been those guys for our families. So, I mean, everybody's capable of it. And what's more noble?
That's what's cool, dude, is you're just doing it.
Yeah.
You know that you don't have it all figured out. You just admitted it a couple of times.
I am honest about it, and that's why people gravitate toward me. Just this recent event that we had, I was at a table with some very high-level people, and the conversation was around things that I'm working through. It wasn't about what I'm going to build, and everybody at the table just dug in, and we all just talked about life, heart-centric stuff, relationships, family. There were tears shed. I mean, I initiated that. So I am now just building more confidence to let people know that you don't have to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. As confident as I come off and big and loud and boisterous as I am, I'm still figuring this shit out too. Yeah. And so's Justin, so are you, so are you.
100%.
And when we can admit that, that's when we attract the right people. Yeah. Vulnerability is the ultimate.
Yeah, it's real. It's genuine. And really that's what people need to help them understand that this is also possible for you. You don't have to have it all figured out. What you got to do is just take action.
Just get started, man. Just do it. The three-word slogan ever created in the history of America, maybe the world. Nike's just do it,
baby.
Because you're not gonna know, and then you'll learn along the way. You showed me your sales floor, and it's literally lined up for the process. I can guarantee you didn't start that way.
No.
That was mistake after mistake being made, and you're like, how am I going to streamline this process and get all the kinks out?
It's taking us a lot of work.
Because you had the courage to start. And that's what it's about, man, just starting. I still have my reservations. I still have my hesitations. I still have fear and doubt because the dream is so big.
Yeah.
Somebody told me yesterday, you've got God-sized dreams. And one of the things I struggle with is handing control over.
Yeah.
I still feel like on some level I am in control. And part of believing that faith wholeheartedly is letting go. And part of me still struggles with that.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people hear that and they're like, yeah, that's me too.
We could do a whole podcast on letting go.
Yeah, surrendering was the word. So my buddy told me, well, maybe you're just in a holding pattern right now. And I'm okay with that. Like, another thing that I've learned is to be graceful with myself, because I think people are very hard on themselves.
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurs specifically are extremely hard on themselves. If they're sitting still, maybe just relaxing or just getting some downtime, there's a guilt around that.
Yeah.
They feel they should be doing something. Just this morning, I went to a gym. I bought a day pass. These Utah entrepreneurs are very savvy. This is the first personless gym I've ever been to. There's like a 2-door entryway, and you scan your face. So I bought the day pass, but there's no employee there. And they only allow one person in this doorway, and you scan your face, and then the other door will open. So there's no sneaking in. There's no 2 people going in. They've got it down to a science. But I'm here. I'm the new guy. I bought the day pass, but I also need a face scan. So I didn't get in the gym. So I'm like, what kind of shit is this? I come to go to the gym. It's 6:15, 6:20 in the morning. I get turned around. My buddy has a hot tub on his roof, and the sun comes up late here. All right, universe, God, whoever, I'm listening right now. I decided to just sit in that hot tub. And can I tell you, I try to get up. Like, I'm just like, I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm supposed to be doing something. No, you're supposed to watch the sunrise over these beautiful landscape right now that you would not see when you go back home to New York.
Yeah.
So just enjoy it. But just sitting back and enjoying it sometimes it feels impossible for an entrepreneur or an
It's a
A-type
tough thing to
personality.
do.
Yeah. But we owe it to ourselves to embrace that part of us too, because we need peace.
Yep.
And business is not peaceful necessarily.
Yeah.
Business is a means to an end. It employs a lot of people and provides a livelihood for a lot of people. So God bless the business people and the entrepreneurs that create things.
Yeah.
But we also owe it to ourselves to find some peace, to enjoy the spoils of what we work so hard for.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it interesting when you're making content or when you're writing your book, how much of the content that you're passionate about that is actually more for you than it is for anybody that you're talking to?
That was therapy.
It's almost
'Cause
always a message.
I try and do that all the time too.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
It is hard.
I mean, I get anxious. Jeffrey says it's something else, but it's like I feel like I got anxiety in my chest right here whenever I'm sitting still.
That was me this morning in a hot tub watching the sunrise in St. George, Utah.
It's ambition, bro. It's not anxiety. You just need to reframe how you look at it.
There you
it's
go.
wrong. It's not a bad feeling. It's bad if you don't have that feeling.
Yeah, very true, right? Because
I just keep forgetting what you're calling it. So every time I feel it, I'm like, oh, there's that feeling again. What did he say that it was?
It's ambition.
Ambition.
You're not
I
anxious,
just
you're
learned
ambitious.
something the other day because I have coaches as well, and my female coach, she was pointing some things out to me. She's like, I've heard you say this so many times that it's a test. It's a test. Well, let me paint this picture, right? Let's say there's no scores. You can only pass or fail a test. It's either there or here for you. You've got to find acceptance in the middle.
Yeah.
And you got to understand that, yes, you're type A, you're hard charging, you're an entrepreneur, you're never going to sit still. But then you've got to be present for the family, for yourself, while you're at the gym, while you're listening to that book or that podcast that's going to give you the nuggets to grow. So it's a fine line, but only experience, proximity, and intention are what allows us to really appreciate the journey that we've been blessed to have planted in our hearts, man. So I want to create a culture like that where I come from. And unfortunately, I don't see it there. There's a lot of crabs in a barrel. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of blame. And I think that the solution for impoverished people where I come from is truly just family, faith, and entrepreneurship. Ironically enough, we need to build our own stuff. You know, you go in a poor neighborhood, and none of those stores, for the most part, are owned by anybody from the neighborhood. They're owned from outsiders who come in. We just don't have that culture. So I'm going to do my part to, you know, build groups and build. I've got the Young Kings Council that I'm building out in my neighborhood, which is going to teach kids all of the things that school never will. No matter where you come from, school just doesn't teach you these tools.
Well, we know it's possible because you came out of the Bronx.
Yeah.
We know that there's a lot of success stories that come out of the Bronx.
Absolutely.
But you're right when you say that it's, even if it's only one person, when you get this book out to the world, it's going to be more than one person. We all know that. But the fact is you're doing it. You've got a relatable message. You're doing it for the right reasons. You're passionate about it. You're going to help other people find purpose and passion in their life. I have no doubt.
That's the goal.
You got a strong message.
Been awesome, man. So, hey, how do people get a hold of you? What, you know, if somebody's listening to this, like, man, I want to go get your book. Where do they get your book? You got a podcast? I know that.
Sure. So Beyond the Bronx, From Prison to Purpose, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. TheRealSeanMartin.com is our website. You can sign up for our community, our newsletter, point you to the book, and also just keep you in touch with our community, what we're trying to build around the money mindset movement to change people's money mindsets and entrepreneurs, to basically break those invisible ceilings that we all experience before we can really have that explosive growth and grow into the person we're supposed to be. So we help people do that. And then you can find me, my big platform where I actually interact directly is Instagram. The handle is The Sean Martin, TheSeanMartin. And then we're on every other platform too, but I'd be remiss to tell you I don't have TikTok on my phone, so my team runs that. And then we've got, lastly, the Real Mentors podcast, which you two gentlemen will be invited onto. Awesome. And the Real stands for Real Examples Altering Lives. So we tell stories of entrepreneurship to pass down to the audience so that they can better themselves and hopefully create a new future for their families and change their legacy. And then we also have people from the community who are doing God's work to make change happen, and we try to give them a platform. Instead of clicking a donation button, we invest into creating good content that they can reuse and spread their message with. So
Amazing.
Well,
appreciate you being on today, Sean. I know
you.
our listeners got a ton out of this today. I know I did. It's awesome to hear your story, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For those of you guys that tune in today, make sure you like and subscribe. Send this out to somebody you think could get some value from this. And in the meantime, remember, stay solid.